Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmerced.com, and this is an episode of the Alex Merced Cast. Now, I just got done watching this movie on Netflix called The Platform, and in this episode, I'm going to kind of delve into it and talk about sort of what a lot of people assume are the themes of the movie and sort of what I took away from the movie. If you haven't seen this movie, I highly recommend that you go watch it first. It's on Netflix. You probably have Netflix, so go watch it. It's a Spanish film, so you do have to read subtitles if you don't know Spanish. But it's very good, very thought-provoking, really good imagery, really well done. So that's my spoiler warning. So you've been warned. Okay, so now let's talk about first, what is the movie? So I'm assuming you've seen the movie, so you now know that The Platform is about basically a bunch of people who are in this sort of kind of prison that they may have voluntarily, involuntarily put themselves into, where basically your ability to eat is determined by what floor you're on, by what sort of level you're at. So, because all the food tends to start at the top level and then it kind of works down, and basically everyone is eating the scraps of the previous floor. And basically a lot of people, when you read a lot of the commentary on this movie, they see this as a commentary in capitalism, saying, okay, here's a class system, and the higher classes are consuming, and the lower classes are only consuming what's left over, okay, and making this as sort of some sort of indictment of capitalism's competitive nature. So in the sense that basically people would compete to eat, they would kill each other to make sure that they could, survive this sort of, dog eat dog kind of situation. Now, when I take a look at it, I kind of get the opposite message. To me, actually, I see a lot of libertarian themes. I do probably would venture the posit that the intention of the director, the intention of the writer, is probably more towards that criticism of capitalism. But if you look very closely at the movie itself, it's actually, I think, makes the case, or it basically illustrates the criticisms that libertarians have and the reasons why we sort of favor free markets and free exchange, and the issues with sort of central planning. Okay, so basically what happens here is that you don't have a market, okay? So you basically have this just big plateau of food, and this kind of introduces us to the idea of the tragedy of the commons. So the idea is that food, there's no limit to how much you can have. It's free, okay? It's free for everybody to use. Now, you know that if you're in that top floor, if you don't eat the food, someone else is going to eventually eat it after you. So why not indulge as much as you can? This is a problem we see with a lot of sort of quote-unquote public goods, and or you can say like an all-you-can-eat buffet, okay? I know of one all-you-can-eat buffet that has crab's legs, and the minute those crab legs go out, they're gone. Because everyone goes there, and they know that if they don't grab crab's legs the minute they're put out there, they're going to be gone, so everyone grabs more than they probably otherwise would grab, okay? One, because there's no marginal cost to taking another crab leg, but there is the likeliness that you won't get a crab leg if you don't grab one now. So the same thing here with the food. If you eat more food, there's no marginal cost. There's no additional cost to you. So you end up eating as much food as you can, because not eating the food means, well, you will have less food. Okay? So there's all upside, no downside to just gorging. This is what's referred to as the tragedy of the commons. This is not the case in a true market economy. Okay? In a market economy, there is a cost. There's generally a cost to everything. There's generally a cost to consume. Okay? So in a free market, what would happen is, chances are, yes, the people in the top rung may necessarily have the most resources to consume more, but there's still going to be there's still a point at which the amount of money they're spending, or the amount that they're giving up, as far as whatever resource they're giving up, whatever the price is, isn't worth the next marginal unit, because you're full. So why give up your resources when you're getting no benefit out of the next portion of food? Okay, there's no reason to. There's actually a disincentive for you to gorge, and there's a higher likeliness that more food will get down to the lower level. So it's not. And this is where I think a lot of like people who are generally like who lean left kind of misunderstand. It's not a matter of trickle down. It's a matter of resource management and putting prices allow people to really kind of assess the situation of how much consumption. Now, yes, some people have more ability to pay a price and can consume more, but the fact is you still have to make that calculation. And even when you spend, you don't automatically just have more. Okay, so you also have to think about how can you attain more resources, which means what can I give to someone else that they're willing to pay for? What value can I provide to others? Okay, there was no situation where anyone along the ways could make more food. The only real food they could provide each other beyond the food that was on this table was, themselves. Okay, so basically, there was no way to produce value for others to an extent. I mean, to some extent, people had one good with them and can try to use that good, but the only people they could really interact with was the person they were assigned with on the floor. This is very different than, like, again, a market economy where you are free to associate, you are free to figure out who you can produce value for to attain resources, to grow your lot in life, to grow your position. While here, your position, your floor, was completely arbitrarily chosen by bureaucrats, by some imaginary elite that we never get to see. That's more like a government who sits there and says, okay, well, we like these things, so they're going to get the tax rates, they're going to get the subsidies, and we don't like these things, so we're going to tax these things, we're going to make these things against the law. And, it's where you end up can oftentimes just be arbitrarily decided by some bureaucrat versus based on your own merit. And it's not just about merit. Don't get me wrong. I don't think that, hey, a free market's going to be some pure meritocracy, because merit's subjective, like anything else. It's not this. There is no objective merit. Okay, you could be the most brilliant scientist in the world, but if you're a jerk and you don't get along with people, you're not necessarily you're gonna find yourself limited as well. Okay, in a market environment, it's not just about who's sort of like the best at doing the thing. It's a sort of a more holistic mix of features that are going to determine sort of your success. Because you may have something to offer, but if you don't know how to build community, to connect with people, no one's going to be interested in what you have to offer, or have a chance to know you enough to know that you have it to offer. So in a free market, since there's no one forcing someone else to give you anything, you have every incentive to get along with as many people as possible to encourage positive relations with other people, in the sense that, hey, I know people, I want to meet as many people as I can, I want to be as valuable to them as I can, because it improves my opportunities, improves my relationships. That's a market economy. Notice I'm not using the word capitalism. I don't like the word capitalism, because capitalism is like a Rorschach test, in the sense that, you say the word capitalism to a libertarian like me, I'm thinking free markets. But then I say the word capitalism to someone who leans very left, they're not thinking free markets. And this is where it causes a lot of the confusion in the discussion. They're imagining this sort of system where business has corrupted the bureaucrats, which is something that libertarians aren't fond of either. But this is just inherent with a system of sort of private ownership, and ignoring sort of these challenges of the tragedy of the commons and all these things. But they just imagine that there's this system where basically all the doors for upward mobility are controlled by some elite who have control of not just government but of business. And basically there's this class that just has created this sort of permanent sort of fracturization. As a libertarian, I don't necessarily say that's impossible, but again, to the extent such a thing can occur, requires an imposition of force. And basically that's what governments are. They are a monopoly of force. So basically, to the extent that any kind of elite co-opt this government, this monopoly of force, is because it has the power to do so. And really, at the end of the day, it just comes down to all us as individuals and our consent of such a thing. The problem is that when we get to a point where people are challenging the status quo, we oftentimes get so confused in what we're challenging. Okay, we think it's like, okay, we just need to challenge. Like, you have all these people who just, like, they want to challenge this whole concept of capitalism. Okay, so then people start creating this, like, hostility towards enterprise, towards, mutual exchange, which are good things. These are the things that allow more people to thrive. Not against sort of the things that prevent us from being able to lift ourselves, which are things like, which is essentially protectionism at many levels, in and out of government, where people try to put barriers to protect what they have and prevent others what they have, and also just a general willingness to get along with each other. And again, those things all dissipate when politics becomes stronger, because elections become more decisive. I mean, there's much more on the line. So there's much more on the line to try to convince 51% of the population to hate the other 49, because that's how you win elections. So the nature of a growingly powerful government is going to result in a much more divisive dynamic, which is going to cause all these other kind of more corrupting elements to kind of occur, along with all sorts of other things. Again, there's no one single cause. There's all sorts of different sort of cycles going on. But yeah, so in the sense, when I say the movie, I see, again, it's just people who really have no autonomy. They don't have no freedom to travel. They have no freedom to exchange with each other. They have nothing to exchange with each other. Each person is only allowed one item. They're not allowed to hold on to any of the food. There's all these sort of real arbitrary rules that are not enforced by any kind of error consent. Again, the difference between like me going to a bar that I like, let's say, the reason I don't break the rules is because I don't want to be banned from the bar. Okay, so I'm not. It's because I want to consensually be there, and I want them to consent to let me be there. Is that I follow the rules. They don't have the ability to like shoot me but government does have the ability to shoot me if I don't follow the rules. So it's a difference in that enforcement mechanism. So in the platform, the enforcement mechanism is generally force. Even if it's not necessarily someone shooting you, the fact that if you hold on to food, they'll boil you alive or freeze you to death. Okay, it's pretty rough. Okay, so then you have you get double threats. You can't go up because they've made it physically impossible. You can't hold on to food, so you don't have any of these mechanisms that normally would in a market economy improve things. It is more like in a prison. And in a prison, market economies and even in a traditional prison, you actually can have a market economy develop because at least people can associate with each other. That is not even the case in the platform. So it's truly like people being isolated from each other, given really little resource to do anything, little autonomy to do anything, with all their fates being determined by some sort of central authority imposing their will by force. This sounds to me like a government dystopia, not necessarily a capitalist dystopia, because even if you did have, evil business overlords, they'd still want to sell stuff. Okay, so they'd still want more people than not being able to buy their stuff. And that's kind of the thing about capitalism. Like, even in the worst case scenario, the businessman still wants people to be not doing poorly, because then they can't buy their stuff. Okay, even though most businessmen, or especially most entrepreneurs, they don't start out trying to do the business that's going to make the most money. They start out building a business and a product that they care about at great sacrifice. Oh yes, people can be like, well, people go into banking because they're going to make lots of money. There are people who actually get into banking because they're passionate about it. I've met them. And there is reasons to be passionate about banking. It's actually a really interesting topic if you understand how it all works and a lot of the economics behind it. It can be really interesting to be able to sit there and help people who have resources they want to invest, connect them with people who have great ideas to invest in. But yes, you do have those people who are just looking to turn a quick buck, who try to scam people at all levels. Though it's not just in business; you see it in government. You see it in you see churches that try to scam people. You see, the willingness of some to take advantage of others is not something unique to enterprise. And it is something that a market economy can at least have some incentives to limit. Okay, whether it's because, hey, again, I want to follow the rules because I don't want to get kicked out of my favorite bar, or I want to keep my job, so I'm going to do some work, or I want to make sure my customers keep coming to my business, so I have a reason to pay attention to their needs. versus, compulsive association, where basically, hey, if you have to give me food, then who cares about how I treat you and whether you get anything out of your relationship with me? If you have to give me food, if you have to give me this, and if you don't, you're gonna get shot. So it's a different, I think, a very different picture than a lot of people realize. And when I see the platform, I see a extremely sort of, a picture of sort of a dystopia that is what us libertarians are generally trying to work against, because we want a place where people can freely associate with each other, where people can do what they want, trade with what they want, accumulate resources, not be limited in the resources they have until someone gives them the permission to have them. So my name is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, just general libertarian dude these days. You can go find more information about me at alexmerced.com. Subscribe to my podcast on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. Leave a comment. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just look up Alex Merced on YouTube. Like me on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram. Thank you guys very much. Have a great day and enjoy.